Hello, and welcome back, brave souls. The past has a way of clawing its way back into the present, of twisting the memories we hold dear into something darker, something far more menacing. Last time, we met Peter, a man whose life was shattered by a mysterious shadow, a figure that seems to emerge from his own forgotten past. Tonight, the nightmare deepens. Peter's reality continues to unravel, and the shadow grows stronger, more relentless. As his grip on the present slips further, the line between what is real and what is a haunting memory fades from Peter's mind. The past isn't just following him, it's beginning to take over. So stay with us, and let's step deeper into the darkness together. I'm Cora Poe, and this is Slumber Myth, a place for insomnia fuel. Tonight's continuation of Beyond the Pages is presenting Shadow Haunting by the brilliant Noelle Mills. Her story comes from betwixt the chilling pages of Coagulation 8, Nostalgia. If you've enjoyed this journey so far, please consider supporting the Coagulation Foundation and its mission to bring inclusivity to science fiction and horror by joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/thecoagulationfoundation. Now, let us continue the harrowing tale of our poor protagonist, Peter. Last time, we left Peter at the pub, under the scrutiny of his friends as the festering insanity caused by the shadow was beginning to bubble to the surface, beginning to become noticeable.
On too many, I guess.
Peter said, pushing his plate over to Benny.
Yeah, you take it.
The men all around him raised their eyes in surprise, including Benny, most of all.
You need it more than I do. Put some meat on those useless bones of yours.
Peter joked, trying to explain away his sudden loss in appetite. Benny scowled as the others laughed, but he pulled the plate over just the same and stabbed the steak with his fork.
We won't be saying that in a minute for our rematch. But who am I to turn down a free steak?
He roared in laughter at his own joke, and the other lads joined in. And the focus on the room shifted, allowing Peter to slip quietly into the background. Nursing his ale, Peter tried and failed not to notice the shadow out of the corner of his eye, leaning against the end of the bar where it met the soot-stained wall. He could feel it staring at him.
Tick-tock, Peter. Tick-tock.
The cuckoo clock above the overstuffed coat rack went off with a chime. It wasn't terribly late, but Peter had had enough of the shadow watching him. Making his excuses, he paid for his drinks and the steak he didn't eat, and grabbed his coat on the way out the door. The stars overhead were brighter than most of the street lamps, but Peter found himself drifting toward the artificial light like a moth to the flame. Instead of taking shortcuts, he went the long way home, walking at a fast pace that he knew was normal. He nearly knocked over a man smoking a pipe on the street corner, and didn't notice when he almost tripped over a bum sleeping in an alcove of a cobbler's shop. But the angry words from both fell on deaf ears as he traversed the gaslit streets on his way home. He knew he must look like a madman, eyes darting over his shoulder as he hurried down the cobblestones, rushing away from some unseen horror. But the shadow kept pace with him, whispering in his ear.
Where are you running to, Peter? There's no one waiting for you to come home. Peter, child eater, had a wife and couldn't keep her.
A dark, sinister chuckle sounded in his head. Venom seethed under his skin. It wasn't even true. He hadn't married Wendy, and he knew exactly why it never would have worked. They had gone through things together that no one else could ever understand. It had brought them close and given them support in the years that followed, but in the end, she didn't want to be reminded of those things. She wanted to move on, and he couldn't fault her for that. It wasn't shameful. They were both better for it. And yet, that voice, mocking him, wormed its way into his head, digging in its poisonous barbs.
Shut up! Shut up!
Peter hissed under his breath. He passed a drunk who gave him weird looks and clutched his bottle of liquor tighter against his chest. Pushing aside how insane he looked to the random passerby, he muttered angrily under his breath.
What do you want?
The shadow was running alongside him now, laughter ringing in his ears, dripping with cruelty.
It's not about what I want, Peter. It's about what you want, Peter. I'm part of you, remember?
Throwing aside any vestige of normalcy, Peter broke out into a full-on sprint. But inside his head, the laughter only grew stronger and louder.
Where are you running to, Peter? You can't outrun your own shadow.
But Peter didn't care. Forgoing appearances, he simply ran, like a child, fleeing from a rabid dog chasing him down the street. His lungs burned and his legs ached, but he didn't dare slow down. This proved to be his undoing, for when he reached the bridge ahead, he tripped over a cracked cobblestone and fell down, tearing a hole in his trousers and scraping his knees and palms. For several panting breaths, he stared down at the shadow beneath him.
You are not part of me. You do not control me. And you never will.
He ground out, spitting down onto the pavement in defiance. The shadow remained motionless. Getting to his feet and brushing the grit from his skinned palms, he stopped and looked as a loud train screeched, approaching the bridge, pushing out heavy plumes of dark smoke. The light on the front of it blinded Peter, who threw his arms to block the light. On the cobblestones, with the light burning behind him, the shadow grew larger and larger, strengthening as a deafening screech of metal wheels on rails sounded below.
I have always been a part of you, Peter. You can seek the light all you wish, but no matter how fast you run, you're never going to outrun your shadow.
True to his word, the shadow clung to him, dripping its caustic words into Peter's ear over the next few days. He ate little and slept less, and though the shadow could not harm him physically, Peter felt himself coming undone, piece by piece. His hyperfixation at work made him irritable and caused what few friends he wasn't avoiding to avoid him instead. He didn't go to the pub, he went straight home. But while sleep evaded him, he grew restless and hostile whenever he heard the shadow's voice, pacing about the house and scrubbing the floors, simply to have something to do, to drive out the words reverberating in his skull. Peter no longer slept in his bedroom. That was where the shadow taunted him the most, and where it had snuck into his home. Unable to bear it, Peter had instead built a makeshift fort out of furniture, books, blankets, and brooms, and some spare wood he found in the back alley. He painted symbols on the floor in a protective circle around his new shelter, and filled it with tins of food and bottles of water. And every evening he settled inside of it, with all the lights on and the curtains drawn. He'd broken or dismantled all of the clocks so that no ticks or talks could be heard anywhere in the house. He kept a small hatchet by the nest of blankets and cushions he had made for himself, though he knew it would do little to stop the shadow. Candles and lanterns lined the room. He knew he was going mad. Losing all rational thought as time went on, with the shadow whispering in his ear, keeping him from sleeping or eating. And yet, there was something within that knowledge that he was slipping, losing his rationality that told him he had some grain of sanity left. That in itself was a comfort. It meant he still had some part of himself to hold on to, and he clung to it desperately.
Tick-tock, Peter. Only a matter of time before your sanity runs out.
Dark laughter filled Peter's head. He covered his ears with his hands, as if that could keep out the voice coming from inside his mind.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Just leave me alone!
In his anger, he hurled a cold cup of tea at the wall, where it shattered into pieces and soaked the wallpaper and rug, but left the shadow perfectly unharmed.
You're slipping, Peter. Look at yourself, cowering like a child. How is it the great Peter Pan, leader of the Lost Boys, vanquisher of pirates, is reduced to a sniveling husk, hiding in a corner?
Peter shook his head, clutching the hatchet in his hand.
None of that was real. I made it up.
He rocked back and forth, one hand in his hair.
But only some of it was a lie, wasn't it, Peter? The truth is buried there, in Neverland, along with the bones of the Lost Boys, along with Captain Hook.
Shut up!
The saucer shattered against the wall, joining their fellow pieces in a messy puddle on the floor.
Don't you dare say that name.
Peter threatened, pointing the hatchet at the shadow crouched on the wall opposite him. The sharp edge gleamed in the low light.
Oh, what? You can't hurt me, Peter. I'm merely a reflection of you.
Peter raised the hatchet and swung it down. The hatchet embedded itself through the wood, the blade severing through the leg of the shadow, inches away from Peter's foot. For a long moment, the shadow and Peter remained perfectly still in a silent standoff. Then, the shadow reached down and pulled his own hatchet from the floor at the same moment Peter did.
You're slipping, Peter. It won't be long now. You'll break, and I'll be there to slip in between the cracks. Tick-tock, Peter. Tick-tock.
That concludes part 2 of Shadow Haunting, the compelling work by Noelle Mills. Join us next time in Beyond the Pages for the final, harrowing installment of this story from the Coagulation Foundation's anthology, Coagulation Volume 8, Nostalgia. This volume is currently for sale at our publishing partner website, lulu.com. Please support the Coagulation Foundation in bringing inclusivity to science fiction and horror media, one artist at a time. Next week, celebrate Friday the 13th with us. We have a special treat dropping just after the thrilling conclusion of Shadow Haunting. This Friday the 13th, join me for a thrilling deep dive into the legacy of Jason, the iconic hockey-masked slasher of Crystal Lake. Whether you're a die-hard fan or a newcomer, this Friday the 13th special will make you reevaluate your opinions about the series. Don't miss it. Friday the 13th of December, 2024, in Slumber Myth's Science Fiction and Horror playlist. 30 minutes after Beyond the Pages Shadow Haunting Part 3 premieres in Slumber Myth's Coagulation playlist. Ready to face your fears? I dare you. Happy nightmares!